Hello everyone. In this video, we will learn about the Pareto principle, also known as the 80-20th rule, which we often refer to as the principle of doing less but achieving more. However, I believe it is more accurate to say that this is the principle of doing more but receiving less in return. We will explore how to apply the Pareto principle to our work and time management to achieve the most effective and best results. The Pareto principle can be understood simply as a principle that applies to everything in life, that we do not follow the theory of equality or fairness, but rather is divided into a ratio of 80-20ths. Meaning that 80% of our efforts will bring about 20% of the results, or 20% of our efforts will generate 80% of the results. In terms of time, we spend about 80% of our time on ineffective tasks to create 20% of the results, and 20% of our time produces 80% of the results. When applying this Pareto principle, we also need to note that these ratios can vary and do not necessarily have to be 80-20ths. They can be 70-30ths, 85-15ths, 90-10ths, and their total does not have to be equal to 100. This is an input factor and an output factor, but for ease of memory, people use the round number of 80-20ths. The Pareto principle is a principle derived from reality, and the first person to implement this principle was the Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto. Therefore, this method is not proven by conventional methods, but it has been tested by many people in practice, so you can trust its application. Firstly, when applying the Pareto principle in the field of business, you will discover that 80% of your sales come from 20% of your customers, or in other words, 20% of your customers bring you 80% of your revenue. Therefore, you need to take good care of these 20% of customers. You will also find that 20% of features will generate 80% of product demand, and about 80% of users only use about 20% of the product's features. For example, you may notice that with your smartphone, you use very few of its features. People often use features such as calling, texting, occasionally watching videos or accessing the internet, while many other features are left unused. The 80-20ths principle also tells us, for example, in a company or enterprise, only 20% of workers produce 80% of the results. Did you know that when Elon Musk bought Twitter, he did something? He fired about 80% of the employees and kept only 20% of the staff. It may not be that Elon Musk strictly applied this principle, but the work at Twitter still operates normally and stably. In business, when applying the Pareto principle, we also see that only 20% of products bring in 80% of revenue or profit for the company, while the remaining 80% of products only generate 20% of revenue for the company. However, if you think that the 20% of revenue or 80% of products are not important, then you are mistaken. If you work in business or sales, you probably know about the decoy effect, products that attract customers to your shop or company. These products increase traffic, and when customers come back to your shop or company, they may explore more and possibly buy more products, generating significant revenue and profit. Decoy products are usually sold in large quantities but at a low price, generating little revenue or profit for the shop or company. However, if you only focus on strategic or core products and ignore decoy products, your business will likely decline. Here we apply the Pareto principle to improve the quality and benefits of core products to provide more value to customers. But we also need to focus on decoy or supporting products that help customers compare and choose, as well as attract them to your shop or company. Applying the Pareto principle to time management, we need to divide tasks into important and unimportant categories. We can also use the Eisenhower matrix to allocate time to tasks. After categorizing our tasks, we focus on the important ones that make up only about 20% of our workload. These are the tasks that determine our success or failure in life and our goals. For example, if we have 10 tasks to complete in a day, only 2 of them may be the most important and urgent, so we should spend about 80% of our time completing them first. After completing them, we can move on to other tasks if there is still time. If we don't focus on these 20% of important tasks, we will waste 80% of our time. Therefore, we need to make a daily task list and prioritize the important tasks at the top of the list to complete them first. We should try to finish these important tasks before moving on to other tasks to avoid interruptions or distractions. Although we may think about other tasks while working on one task, we can write them down and come back to them later. Applying the Pareto principle to time management helps us reduce time spent on unimportant tasks and increase time on important ones. It also helps us evaluate our work efficiency and identify the 20% of tasks that require our focus. Therefore, when we have the ability to concentrate most effectively, we should focus on the most important tasks, those that are key to our lives. Here are some ways to apply the 80-20th principle to time management for learning and development. We should spend about 80% of our time on the 20% of tasks that we consider most important. We should also spend about 80% of our time on the most important subjects that will help us be more effective and aligned with our goals and interests in the future. Let's dedicate around 80% of our time to developing skills that will have the most positive impact on our lives and work. We can also apply the Pareto principle to evaluate and filter our relationships, spending about 80% of our time with people who have the most positive influence on our lives. Furthermore, this principle can be applied to many other areas, so let's try it out and evaluate our experiences. That's my sharing on how to apply the Pareto principle or the 80-20th principle. I hope this video will be useful to you. Goodbye and see you in the next videos.